This is the regular iPhone 16, and I think I've worked out who should buy it. For the last few years, I've always bought the iPhone Pro Max, the 14 Pro Max, the 15 Pro Max, the 16 Pro Max. It's always been my default kind of choice because I'm a tech YouTuber and because I always want the best of the best, really. And it's the most popular phone when it comes to these videos, basically. So it's a very unusual occasion when I put one of these in the basket. This is the regular iPhone 16. It's not even the Plus, it's just the regular iPhone 16. It is the 256 gig version because this is actually going to my girlfriend, who at the moment is still rocking, bless her, the iPhone 12 Pro that was mine when I first started this channel and is in such a state. For someone who lives with a YouTuber, a tech YouTuber, it's vastly unfair she's had to put up with that. So I've bought her this, and that means any future updates in terms of reviews on this will come from her. She may not want to come on camera, but that's fine. I'll relay how she's getting on with it. This video, therefore, is not a full review. It can't be, it's still in the box, and there's about 11,000 reviews out there already. I don't get these before embargo, I have to go and buy them. Put the violin away. No, it's honestly, it's okay, I promise. So I can't do a full review of this because that's impossible. And equally, there's loads of reviews out there already that you can go and check out if you want a really in-depth insight into this phone. And the one thing that I really want to dig into on the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Pro Max isn't here yet. It's Apple Intelligence. We've got, in the UK, we've got to wait until December to get our hands on Apple Intelligence. And that's a big selling point for Apple with these, and it's not here, which is annoying. So with all that to be taken into consideration, I think the best thing I can do is unbox this, give you a very quick first impressions, and then guide you to the right device. Because if you're watching this video, you're clearly thinking about buying the iPhone 16, but you might be thinking about spending a little bit more and getting the iPhone 16 Pro Max or the Pro. I think I've worked out exactly who this is for. Okay, let's get into the unboxing. This is the exciting bit. I still love unboxing stuff from Apple. It's always a lovely experience. Their packaging is great, although my iPhone 16 Pro Max packaging didn't do that very cleanly, but we'll let them off that. Okay, as you can see, we've gone for the green iPhone 16. I'm very interested to see what this colour's like. Ooh, oh, yeah. Immediately, I like that. Why does Apple do this? You know, with the iPhone Pro series and the Pro Max, we get these. I mean, the white, I think, the white titanium is very nice, but the rest of the colours are just really kind of industrial looking and not very exciting. The colours for the standard iPhone models are always a little bit more muted and but a bit more colourful, basically. They're muted but colourful. That's exactly what we've got here. So this, I'm fairly sure, is described as green. Is it green? Well, it must be green, mustn't it? But it's a very pastel-y green. I can show you that up there and over here. And I really like it. What I do like as well is that the camera bump is a kind of darker shade. It's a darker shade of that green, so it kind of stands out a little bit more. The Apple logo obviously also is a darker shade as well. Looks like a very nice thing. I'll get into the rest of that in a moment. In terms of what else we get in the box, because this is a UK phone, we do get a SIM card, and we get a SIM card tray, obviously, and a SIM card removal tool, which is great. A nice braided cable, braided USB-C cable. I do love Apple's cables. They're not color-coded. I did wonder if they might be. My iPhone 16 Pro Max one was white. This is white as well. It'd be lovely if that was green. Why not? That would have been a lovely thing. So we get those bits, which are not that exciting, but there we go. And then you get just the bits of paper, which no one ever reads, and no Apple stickers. I'm sorry, but that still bothers me. Okay, let's go for the peel. Ready? Now, because this is going to be my girlfriend's phone, and we have a 2-year-old son, that's going to be getting a screen protector immediately, obviously. But there it is. There is the iPhone 16 standard, not the Plus. This is the standard size, which I think looks really lovely. I almost prefer it to the iPhone 16 Pro Max. The size is a bit more palatable. Just something about, I think what it is, a few people have said this, I can't lay claim to this, but it's the camera layout, which is very iPhone X or 10 as it actually officially was. That's harking back to that, I think. A few people have said that probably the reason it's in that configuration is because you can now shoot spatial video with this. So if you've got a Vision Pro headset, put your hand up if you have. Put your hand up if you're still using it. You can shoot video and photos with this camera system and look at them in your Vision Pro headset, basically. It just looks nice. I love that colour. If you're thinking about the green, we'll try and get the colour grading right on this video. We do anyway, but we'll try and get it as accurate as we can. Choosing colours is very tricky, I think, with phones these days. But yeah, it feels lovely. In terms of the design, apart from the camera bump that looks different, and arguably that makes the iPhone 16 design over the iPhone 15 a bigger change than the 16 Pro Max over the 15 Pro Max, because that looks the same, basically. This does look different, which is nice. There's two other differences with this iPhone 16 over the 15, which is the fact that we have the action button, which is this button up here. That can be configured for all sorts of things. By default, it's configured as the mute switch, because that's where the switch used to be. You can set a focus mode against it. You can use it for the camera, although that wouldn't make sense because of something I'll show you in a second, or various other things that Apple lets you do. Or you can set it to nothing, which has never made any sense, but it's nice that that has come down from the Pro and the Pro Max to the regular iPhone. That's fantastic. The other thing Apple has done this year, which is surprising actually, I thought this was going to be a Pro/Pro Max only feature, and that is the inclusion of this brand new camera control. Not a button, it's a camera control. Now, spoiler, I've played with this already on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. We'll do the same thing on this in a moment, but I've played with it and I've got some thoughts, but it is a button. If you're wondering, it clicks. It's absolutely a button, but for whatever reason, Apple doesn't want to tell you, doesn't want you to refer to it as a button. Anyway, let's power this thing on, shall we? I want to get a look at the display as well. It's the same size as the iPhone 15. There's no change in size. Is it charged? We must have some charge. There we go. They always come with charge. So yeah, the screen is the same size as the iPhone 15. In fact, let me set this up very quickly, and then we'll talk about the display. And then I want to try something which, I'm quite excited about it. I am excited about it. It's a way to keep you watching as well. Check me out. We're all set up. That is your iPhone 16 display, which looks really nice. We've got the dynamic island like we had last year, and I think the size of it, actually, this is a nice phone. This is almost tempting to switch to, based on having used huge phones over the last few years. This is a lovely size, actually. I would immediately recommend the 16 over the 16 Plus. I think the 16 Plus is not the best buy, personally. This feels really good, but the display, as good as it looks in terms of sharpness and the colour, and, you know, I think the bezels are okay, to be honest, they're fine. It's the 60 Hz refresh rate is still there. So I mean, you won't see it on this video, because this video is shot at 24 frames a second, but it's jarring immediately. And that's because I use high refresh rate displays elsewhere, apart from the iPad mini. Everything else I use, whether it be the phone or my other iPads, they're all high refresh rate. And the crucial thing with this is that every Android phone I've tested over the last 2 years, no matter the price point, whether it's a 1,500 quid flagship phone or a 300 quid low-end phone, they've all had variable refresh rates that go right up to 120 Hertz. I don't know. I mean, it's been done to death, this conversation. I've never really got involved in it, to be honest, because I've not used the standard iPhone. It's not been something that I've used. But now I've picked this up, it's really noticeable. You get that kind of jagged, kind of jerkiness scrolling up and down. It doesn't look great. Do regular users who aren't fussed and don't even know what a high refresh rate screen is, do they care? The people who have come from 60 Hertz iPhone 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s to this, are they going to notice it? No, because it's what they're used to, but it doesn't make it right. Now you might be thinking, why not just buy the iPhone 15? Because Apple is still selling it. It's 100 quid, $100 cheaper than the iPhone 16. And on the face of it, apart from the refreshed design, it's worth it, surely, to save a bit of money. I don't think it is, though, and that's for several reasons. The first reason is that this is newer. This is a year newer. It's got the latest chip. It's got the A18 in here. It is the A18, isn't it? Yeah, the A18. So you've gone from the A16 to the A18, which does have one big thing, which I'll come on to in a second. So that means also that it's not quite as close to being disregarded by Apple in terms of software updates at some stage. You're 1 year ahead, and for the sake of 100 quid, $100, I think that's worth it. I've also made a list of the things that you get on the iPhone 16 that you don't get on the iPhone 15. As I said, you've got the A18 chip in there. Apparently have improved efficiency for battery life, so that A18 chip should help the battery life. I've not tested that yet. I will report back on that, but that's very encouraging. Then we have some camera improvements. The main one really is the fact that you can now take... I keep pressing the camera control. The main one, going back to the camera system, apart from the camera control, is the fact that you get an ultra-wide that can now do macro photography. Now, you couldn't do that on the iPhone 15. That's quite a big deal, I think. I love getting macro shots. It makes shooting things much, much easier when you're getting close to them. So the fact you can do that now with the 12 megapixel ultra-wide is good. There's also the action button, like I mentioned earlier. That is a nice thing to have, and you can customize it and do some very cool things with it. That's, again, you don't get that on the iPhone 15. But the big thing goes back to that chip, and it's the fact that this is now compatible. Not now, it's definitely not now. This will be compatible with Apple Intelligence, and the iPhone 15 isn't. Apple Intelligence AI is only compatible with the 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max, the 16, and the 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max. So if you buy an iPhone 15 now, when Apple Intelligence eventually arrives at some stage later this year, you can't use it. It just doesn't work. So that's probably the biggest reason to get the iPhone 16. And I think this looks better. And you have the camera control. Let me show you how that works. So basically, you press it once to go into the camera. So now I'm in the camera app. Fantastic. And I can press it again, take a photo. There you go. There's an example photo from, not very good one, but an example photo from the iPhone 16. However, if I just put my finger on it and then gently press it a little bit, that pops up, which is like a control, as you'd guess. And if I run my finger along the camera control button, you can see, and it's very responsive, this. By default, it does the zoom, so we can zoom in right up to 10x from the looks of it, and zoom right out to the wide, the ultra wide. And it is, like I say, very, very nice to use. Feels typically Apple in that respect. Now, if you press on the screen, if you press the control that comes up, you can then flick between the aperture, the exposure, what else? The different camera settings, different camera modes, styles, tone. So for instance, if I go for styles, press it again or half press it again, we can then flick between them. Now it does feel good, but it does take a little bit of getting used to, I've found, in my very limited testing. The bigger problem with it though is the fact that what I think is the most obvious use case for this isn't ready yet. So basically, on a camera like the one that I'm talking to now, there's a shutter button which, when you half press it, that allows you to lock focus on something and then fully press it to take the photo. Apple basically wants to do the same thing on the camera control by kind of half pressing it to lock focus and then fully pressing it to take the photo. The problem is that's not coming until later this year. Still cannot get my head around why that's the case. A really strange feature to hold back. Just put it in. Really weird. But until that arrives, again, it's difficult to test this and give you a rounded opinion on it. I must say, it feels a little bit like it's trying to solve a problem that isn't there. You see, the addition of the action button, which first appeared on the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max last year, part of the reason for that was to make it easier to take photos without pressing the display. And we've still got that, and technically we could use that. Okay, you can't run your finger along it and do all that kind of fancy stuff like this, but is that a problem? I don't know. I need longer with the camera control button, but first impressions, interesting. Right, so what if you're trying to decide between the iPhone 16, this is getting very hot by the way, it's doing that kind of setting up thing which makes them incredibly warm. You're trying to decide between the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Which one do you go for? This is where things get quite interesting. So let's talk about what you don't get on this, but you do get on that. I've made quite a big list here. I'll pick out the most interesting things. The first thing is that you don't get the always on display. So there's no always on display on the iPhone 16. Not a big deal, but when you get used to that, it wasn't on then. It's, yeah, a bit jarring. The big thing is the fact that you don't get the 5x zoom on this. So on the iPhone 16 Pro Max and the Pro, you get a 5x optical zoom. That is a big deal for me personally. But again, if you've never experienced that, it may not matter. There's no LiDAR on this, so no LiDAR thing which can like send out these invisible beams to make mapping rooms for AR stuff more accurate, and it does stuff with portrait photography. It basically makes photos look a bit better. Terrible explanation, but you don't get LiDAR on this either. The ultra-wide on this is 12 megapixels. The one on the Pro and Pro Max is 48. Does that matter? There's lower quality optical image stabilization on this. There's no true tone flash. There's no night mode portrait capability. There's no ProRAW, ProRes or log shooting on this for video. And there's no Dolby 4K 120Hz video recording, which is a new thing for the Pro and the Pro Max. And looks, it's that very, very slow motion, high quality video that you can shoot. You don't get that on this either. And the studio quality mics that are in the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max, you don't get those in this phone either. Then smaller stuff like the USB transfer speeds on this aren't quite as fast as they are on the Pro and Pro Max. Displays are slightly bigger on the Pro and Pro Max, and the bezels are a bit smaller, but not by much. That's kind of it. And that leads to the big question, who is the iPhone 16 for? And to answer that question, I'm going to switch from shooting on this to this. Okay, so we're now shooting on the iPhone 16. This is the selfie cam. It's set to 4K, 24 frames per second. We haven't changed anything, so everything you can see and hear is coming out of this phone. I did this with the iPhone 16 Pro Max because someone told me that the studio grade mics in this were incredible. So I've put that to the test in a different video, which I'll link to at the end of this video so you can compare the two, but let me know what you think in the comments about the video quality and the audio quality from the iPhone 16. It looks good on here. I do have a massive key light, which is a bit unfair, but yeah, let me know what you think down below. Now, in terms of who the iPhone 16 is for, if you've got the iPhone 15, don't bother. Unless your phone is dying, there is no need to upgrade from the 15 to the 16. If you've got a 14, if it's dying and if you're coming to the end of your contract and you like that phone, just get the iPhone 16. You'll love it. It's a fairly big upgrade, I think, from that. If you're trying to decide between this phone, the iPhone 16, and the 16 Pro or the 16 Pro Max, I think it's really straightforward. If you watched and listened to all of those things that I said earlier that you don't get with this phone, that you do get with this phone, and you just sat there thinking, so what? Just get the iPhone 16. The only thing I think you're missing out on really is that 5x optical zoom. That is something which I think is a big selling point for this phone. But apart from that, you're getting everything else. You're getting macro photography, you're getting Apple Intelligence when it arrives, you're getting the camera control, you're getting the action button, you're getting everything. You're not getting a proper 120 Hertz ProMotion display, but we'll just forget about that for now. You may not care. I think if you're that sort of person who just doesn't care about that other stuff, just get this phone. It's a really good phone, this. I can tell, even though I've only got it out of the box and had it for 10, 15 minutes, whatever, this is a really, really good phone. And I know a great example of this is the fact that my girlfriend will love it. Anyway, guys, I'd love to know what you think about the iPhone 16. Are you going to buy one, or are you going to buy the iPhone 16 Pro Max? Remember to hang around at the end of this video for the link to my first impressions about this phone. And if you've enjoyed this video, give it a cheeky thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you know what to do. Catch you next time.